see there?
There's actually oh, I think I have to click, got it. There's actually, I've been seeing more and more flying downriver, south of Morgan Falls Dam. And so there are eagles in captivity at the Chattahoochee Nature Center. And they are there because they can't be reintroduced for whatever their injury was. And they've actually been there for a good amount of time. I haven't seen those in years, but I've had numerous eagle sightings just this year on the river, flying south on the river. And there's a nest that I'm kind of aware of, but I'm not really giving out the location of it. Because
you don't want 500 people showing up there.
That's why they asked me to.
Exactly. Well, we're going to go.
It's encouraging that there's a nest.
There is, yeah. and it is active. But I'm not given the location because probably all of us are. The problem is when it gets out, and you just never know what people who hear from somebody who hears from somebody who hears from somebody,
Yep.
So the people that showed me where it was asked me to kind of keep it hush hush.
Well, let's get started. So welcome everybody. Good to see everybody. This is going to be hopefully our last Zoom only meeting. We'll be talking about it in a little bit, but we plan on moving into our new home next month and hope to do some hybrid meetings because I know not everybody can make the meetings and we have people who live in other parts of the state. But we'll talk about that in just a minute. Let me go ahead and get the slideshow started. All right. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right. All right. No issues yet. There's still plenty of time. Tom, we've been doing these for almost 2 years now, and I always have some sort of issue every time. Just to let you know.
Well, you already got an issue. You got me as a speaker. I mean,
well, what are we going to do?
That's an issue we want.
I guess we're not going to be able to do your famous selfie.
My famous what?
Selfie.
Oh, the selfie. No.
Yeah. Tom has spoken to us, for those new members, Tom has spoken to us twice in 2 different homes that we've had. And he always starts by taking a selfie of himself with all the club members in attendance. So that'll be for next year's meeting.
There you go.
Everything's better. Hopefully.
I'd like to come back, sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So tonight we're going to discuss some club business. We got some events and workshops to talk about. Tom Wilson is our speaker. And then we're going to do our photo challenge. The theme this month is framed. So, of course, most of you know that we have paid memberships and people who are not paid members. The biggest thing is that paid members get more benefits, one of which is the free workshops, also getting to participate in our monthly challenges. We have a dedicated page, Facebook page for paid members, and also a separate email list for paid members. We kind of made a deadline of February 15th to pay dues. Those who have not paid their dues yet, this weekend, I'm going to have to take you off the paid members Facebook page and the paid members email list. You'll still be on the regular email list, still be on the regular Facebook page, still can come to meetings, still can post on Facebook, still can go on trips. You just won't get the membership benefits. However, if you do go ahead and pay, I'll put you back on those lists. And just go to our website, northgeorgiaphotographyclub.com, if you want to go ahead and pay your dues. And all money that comes in from the dues just goes to our club. It goes to our rent at our new home, It helps with workshops and supplies, paying for Zoom. So we definitely appreciate the folks who pay, and we hope to give you your money's worth. So we are moving to the Bowen Center for the Arts in Dawsonville beginning next month. We're going to be doing some test meetings beginning in about 2 weeks, just to make sure everything works and we can figure out how to do a hybrid meeting. Dick was instrumental in getting us the new home. So I'll let Dick talk about Bowen a little bit.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the Bowen has a very nice, what I think anyway, is a very nice classroom. They have a projector, which fortunately has color balance controls, so we can kind of calibrate it. It's a little bit unclear, reason Mike and I are going to have to do some testing to see just how strong the internet connection is. But at least we will be able to record it for YouTube. And while we're there, you'll get the benefit of being able to see whatever it is they've got on exhibit. Right now, I'm not sure. It might be model airplanes, but that might be over by now. I'm not 100% sure. But in any event, we are going to make a monthly donation to the Bowen, rent, if you will, for the room. And the good news is, since we're meeting there and making that donation, if you want to sell stuff in their little gift shop, they will give you a good rate. They'll only take 20% instead of the usual 40%. And other than that, not much to say.
Hello.
We'll go ahead and
Hey, darling, what are you doing?
send out. Hang on a second.
I'm trying.
All right. Had to mute Barry. Yeah, he made it online. Anyways, we'll go ahead and I'll send emails out. We'll post lots of times on the Facebook page so that you'll know how to get there and address and how things are going to work. But it's kind of exciting after 2 years to be meeting in person again.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
If by chance we have not paid our dues, some of us are not paying close attention to that, will you notify us?
I've sent out 2 emails. You've paid. You're good. You and Travis are both paid, so you're good. That's why you didn't get the emails.
I don't have anything to do with Travis.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, yeah, I did send 2 emails to just the folks who hadn't renewed. So if you're a paid member and you did not get an email reminding you to pay, message me on Facebook and I'll send you the information. All right, so talked about our new home. So we're gonna let Dick talk again. We have a trip coming up next week, next Saturday, to Sloss Furnaces in Birmingham. Dick. Dick went away. So anyways, all the information.
Unmute myself.
Oh, okay.
So my recent record for event planning and the weather is miserable. I do some hiking with groups and lead those, and the last 3 hikes I've tried to do have been rained out. And the Old Car City thing sort of got screwed with the weather. So I'm hoping and praying that a week from tomorrow, we'll have good weather. Everybody needs to do whatever incantations or ceremonies or dances or anything else short of human sacrifice that you can do. But then the big event is the end of April, which is the Camera Club Shootout. In between there, I'm hoping to organize some sort of waterfall hunt, but that will depend on my situation at home as to whether I can get loose or not. April and May are going to be bad months for me to organize things because I got travel and house guests to deal with. So I'm looking for anybody who wants to go someplace in April or May is going to have to talk to me and I'll help get all the information online and everything, but I probably won't be going myself. Back to you, Mike.
All right. Yeah. So if you have any questions about floss furnaces, just contact Dick or just post a question on the event page for the event posts. But I think you said it starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Well, no, it starts at 11 p.m. We're going to do a nighttime shoot. No,
yeah.
No, the place opens at 10, and it will cost you $20 to take pictures.
Okay, so 10 Central Time, 11 Eastern Time. All right.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. That is Central Time. Yeah.
Okay. So the other big event we have coming out is the North Georgia Camera Club Council Shootout, which was postponed the past 2 years. They're going to have it April 30th in Dallas, Georgia. And Rick is going to tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, it's going to be at Chattahoochee Tech in Dallas, as Mike said, on the 30th, Saturday the 30th. And I thought I'd just say a couple things about sort of what that day looks like, because a lot of you probably haven't done a shootout before. They are a blast. That is just so much fun. And I think the best way to describe it is imagine that you're among about 200 like-minded people who love shooting stuff, and pretty much spending the entire day with that group of people doing what you love. I mean, that's kind of what the shootout boils down to. The actual activity is pretty much a photographic scavenger hunt, and you're constrained on both time and geography to be able to get your images, get back, process them, and all that stuff. So very rough timetable, and I'm sure the planning committee will have to put some specifics together, Mike, about exactly how we'll work this out. Yeah. But very rough timetable. About 7:30 in the morning, we're probably going to want to get there, find our classroom for the club, set up our computers and get everything ready. And then about 8 o'clock, we'll go into their auditorium. This is usually how it's done anyway. And the 5 random topics for the day will be picked and shared with us, each one assigned a number. And then we will all go out and try to shoot those topics and come back in giving our club some time to get them sorted out. About 8 o'clock in 4 minutes, 200 photographers are running out of that building to their cars or to the grounds. And one thing to keep in mind with the shootout is the further you travel, the more difficult it's going to be to collect all your topics and get back in time. So you've got to think strategically about how you use your time. You might have 3 hours of shooting. Roughly 11 o'clock, you want to be back to the classroom, downloading and editing your images. And then whatever process we work out for the club, you're going to get your images to Mike or whomever, and then we'll have an hour and a half or so to go through those. The club leadership will go through those and pick the 50 images that we're going to submit on behalf of our club, 10 for each of the 5 topics. So a little planning is in order to make sure that there's enough images of each topic and all that for the club to have a chance, because there's individual competition and prizes, and there's also a club level competition going on, and you've got about 10 clubs represented there. So that's really a lot of the fun. During the afternoon, you probably spend some time seeing presentations from folks like Tom or whoever they can bring in, professional photographers. You'll have benches set up where, I don't know if Barry will be involved cleaning cameras, but folks will be doing stuff like that. You'll have other vendors, and then really you just, around lunchtime, usually everybody goes out and with existing friends, or we find some new friends along the way. One thing I'd say that is we probably want to just put some plans together to make sure that we have enough of the images for each of the topics for the club to submit. And just a general comment, it's funny, I've been through 5 or 6 of these things, and the winners are often a surprise. And I'll give you an example of the way the judges tend to look at this stuff. They want to see a unique approach to whatever the topic is. not necessarily a great artistic image, but something that meets the requirements of the topic and maybe is a little bit outside the norm. That's kind of what wins. And a classic example was one year, one of the random topics was round. And my friend Mark Chandler won first place with a photograph of a spigot outside a building, a water spigot. And, you know, they're kind of round, and this one was painted blue. That's it. It was not a brilliant work of art, but that won because it caught the judge's eye. So just kind of how they operate, a little bit different. And honestly, you don't have time to do brilliant artwork. Sometimes you will get some great photos out of these events. But it's really more for the fun, the camaraderie. And you just don't get to hang out with 200 photographers that often, spend the whole day together. So that's kind of how it works out. Did I leave anything out?
Yeah, the club participated 2 years ago. It was our first time participating. We had the smallest group and finished in sixth place out of about 12 or 13 teams. So I thought that was really good for only 6 participants. And it just shows you that a club can do well, even if you don't have a lot of people, but hopefully we will. We have to figure out a few things because I do think there's a per member fee or a fee if you had so many members. And I think the club was going to go ahead and pay that fee for paid members. But we just got to get that stuff figured out. So we'll have more information by the March meeting, and we'll start, getting people to sign up for it because we need to know ahead of time who's going to participate.
Yep.
But if you did participate in our mini shootout we had in was it October or November? It's similar to that, but a little bit more structured, yes. A little bit more following the rules. You're not going to be able to just show up. You need to be signed up in advance, but we'll get all the rules out there. But it's fun. It's a blast. And I hope we have a lot of participation in it. And we'll put more information out as we get closer to then. All right. Workshops. We've got some workshops coming up in March and April. Timmy, are you on?
I am.
All right. I'll let you talk about them instead of taking away your thunder.
Okay, and I think Kevin's on too, so he can talk too.
He can talk about that last one.
Yes, definitely. So we have, well, first I want to just say the one we had on February 10th with Stephanie, if you missed it, go back and watch the recording. I learned so much. It was on night sky stacking, and I can't wait for the core of the Milky Way to come back this summer to try some of that. So I'm super excited about that. I hope everybody else enjoyed it as much as I did and learned as much. So March 12th, we have Mike Robertson. He spoke back in August, I believe it was, and he said he would do a workshop on off-camera flash again. And that's going to be March 12th. We're still trying to figure out location. At first, he said Dahlonega, but then he said he felt there would be more options for shooting at Hurricane Shoals. So I did put a little poll on Facebook to kind of get a feel for that. I think I only got 6 responses, but I'm still trying to wait. I think Dahlonega was winning though on that little poll, but so it'll either be Dahlonega or Hurricane Shoals, 4 in the afternoon, because he wants to get the best light. And that will be March 12th, of course, barring any strange weather events. March 26th, we have a special one coming up. Linda Lester in Canton, Georgia. She does some amazing photography, a lot of which involves her little froggy friends. So that one is actually full already, but we're going to be going over to her actual studio on March 26th and doing some photography with Linda. And then April 3rd, Kevin is going to lead us on a photo walk. I think he's more aligning that to novice photographers, but I'm going to let him talk about that. Kevin, you on?
I am. Yeah, so like Timmy said, kind of going to focus this one on our new photographers, just kind of as a skill building workshop. I'm probably going to put a cap on it of around 8 to 10. Of course, just like with most of the workshops, anybody's welcome. And if it does start to get up there in numbers of people that want to participate, as far as the beginners go. I'd like some of the, to say seasoned vets to come along just to kind of help them out. You know, I'm sure we have people in the group that have maybe had a camera for a couple of weeks or maybe for a year and just don't understand the functions, don't understand some of the photography techniques, and just thought this would be a great social time and a great time to get them to dive a little bit deeper into the photography. Looking at starting that probably around 3 o'clock. I haven't nailed down a time on that yet, but probably around 3, carry it into dinner. And as Mike knows, I love to eat. So probably do a dinner after that.
Yeah, most of our events usually involve food afterwards, or at least they did pre-pandemic. So
yes,
we'll continue to do that. And it's usually Mexican food.
Thank goodness.
So what we'll probably do for Kevin's Walk is we'll probably do some kind of sign-up sheet, whether it's through email or Facebook, just so we can get a kind of an idea and know whether or not we need to cap it or if we need to get some more instructors or seasoned photographers to help out. But yeah, just watch for details on that. The workshops, since those are for paid members only, first off, membership is only $20. Each of those was worth $20. So you're getting your money's worth just by paying $20 once. Second, the information for workshops are only on the paid Facebook page and on the paid email list. Trips will be on both. So again, because trips are for everybody, but that's kind of one of the biggest benefits of the paid membership. And we're not going to talk about it too much tonight. We'll probably talk about it next month, but we also have a mentorship program for paid Facebook members. Lisa's kind of in charge of that. She's a little bit under the weather, but she is here tonight to run the photo challenge. So I told her she doesn't have to talk tonight until we get to the photo challenge. So anyways, let's move on. Tom Wilson is here, and I have a little bio about Tom. He's been photographing the Chattahoochee River for over 20 years. His Chattahoochee River photos have been widely published by numerous organizations, as well as in newspapers and magazines, on posters and MARTA buses. He's the past vice president of the GNPA and currently serves as the communication committee chairman. So Tom, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. And so you're going to unscreen share.
Yeah, I need to stop sharing. Okay, and then you should be able to share.
Now, before I share though, I'm going to do my selfie.
He's going to do a selfie. All
Everybody
right.
smile. Well, it's the best.
Oh, let me turn on the camera. Now go ahead.
Oh, okay. Wait. Keep it on. Everybody turn on your camera. If you can. Okay, here we go.
Hey, Tom, take the lens cap off.
Smart Alec. Okay, here we go. Oh, wait, let me go to page 2. I think there's a second page of people. There is. Oh, but yeah, y'all need to turn on your cameras. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. Now we can screen share. That'll be on Facebook tonight. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm not kidding. It will.
He's telling the truth.
Yeah.
We got your picture too, though.
Oh, people seen enough of my mug. Here we go. Okay, looks like I'm sharing. Now let me go up here and start the, start from the beginning. All right, great. Everybody see the screen up there?
Yes.
Is it sharing okay? Super.
Yes.
So as Mike said, I've been photographing for about 21 years now. And so a real theme of my photography, and I kind of decided this early on, that I needed a place to sort of call my home turf, a place that I would go back to again and again and again. And I just decided that that place would be the Chattahoochee River. And though I've photographed all over America, I've photographed, out at Big Bend National Park and South Texas and Florida and you know, you name it, I've been photographing there. But the river runs through my photography. It's the Chattahoochee River. And it's a theme that has tied my photography together for all of these years. And it's really amazing because I think at first, when I thought of the Chattahoochee, I thought of it sort of as my training ground for, you know, when I would go to real places to photograph. But then what I discovered slowly was that the Chattahoochee River isn't just a training ground. It's one of the most beautiful places that I can imagine. Some of the places there, especially around Palisades, is just drop dead gorgeous. There's just nowhere on earth that's, you know, got the diversity and the beauty and everything. And we kind of, you know, what's the old saying, familiarity breeds contempt. But the fact of the matter is we've got this beautiful river right in our backyard. And so I sort of have had my whole photographic career sort of center around that river. And I had a lot of goals when I was photographing, and I thought about these goals. So let me kind of tell you what they are. And just to kind of preface my presentation, I always try to think of ways that photographers can benefit from my presentation. So I'm trying to think about things that you can take home and actually use. And I really think that this is really important to set goals about your photography. What is it you're trying to accomplish? And these are the things that I was trying to accomplish with photographing the Chattahoochee. First of all was to capture the beauty of the river. And in fact, I stated it one time as almost to try to rebrand the river, because I think a lot of people who live around it think of it as that brown strip of water that they pass over at 60 miles an hour while they're driving over one of the interstates around Atlanta. But it's actually, when you slow down and when you go down to the river and when you actually stand on its banks, you find that it's actually a beautiful place. I wanted to show the wildlife that it supports, which is, as we talked about a minute ago in the kind of the lead up to the meeting, there's actually a lot of wildlife on that river. And in fact, you can see the geese flying through at the top of this picture right here. So I always wanted to kind of bring out the fact that this wasn't just, you know, water flowing down a river, but it was a whole river of life that flows in the Atlanta area and down all the way through to the Gulf of Mexico. I wanted to show the diversity of life that it supports, you know, not just animals, but flowers and trees and lichens and all of the different types of life that it supports. I wanted to show people connecting with nature there. And I think it's really a good opportunity for that, because I really think nature photographers need to also emphasize that it's important to learn in their photography how to connect people with nature and show people connecting to nature. I wanted to inspire others to go there. I wanted to inspire others to care about it. And I've always kind of used the idea that to be aware is to care. I wanted to support organizations that protect it. So I've worked with the Chattahoochee Riverkeeper. I've worked with Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area. I've worked with the Chattahoochee National Parks Conservancy. Some of that has been for pay. Some of it has been volunteer. You know, the driving force behind my connecting with those organizations has been protecting and conserving the resource. It's not been necessarily, you know, making money, but I won't turn money down either. So support organizations that protect it, connect my photography into a whole, into a unified whole, which I thought was important. I didn't want to just be scattered pictures. I wanted it to be my photography as an entire portfolio to be about something. And then I wanted to develop an identity as a photographer. And I must say that there are a lot of opportunities that I've gotten in photography because I got known as the Chattahoochee guy. Oh yeah, that guy who photographs the Chattahoochee, that's Tom Wilson. And then I would get opportunities based on that identity. So it's been very helpful. And I would encourage you to do that too. But the other thing that I would encourage everybody to do, and this is a photograph of of me with the designers and builders of the installation at the National Park headquarters down at Island Ford Parkway. When we did this, I think they used about 60 of my images and created an installation there that, you know, told the story of the National Recreation Area. So I would encourage everybody to claim an area as your own home turf. It needs to be a place that you love or identify with, or at least can fall in love with. Have a diversity of subjects, which, you know, most natural places are going to have, but it really needs to have a diversity of subjects. So leading into the next bullet point, it can challenge you for years. And as you grow as a photographer, and as your interests grow, it needs to contain subjects that interest you. And anybody that knows me knows y'all know I love dragonflies, right?
We do now.
I thought y'all always did.
I heard that about you. I seem to recall something about that.
And birds and those sorts of things. And certainly there's a lot of those to photograph there at the Chattahoochee. Needs to be easy to access, so you'll go there a lot, because as you go there a lot and start learning more and more and more, your photos will get better. John Shaw, the great nature photographer, said to become a better nature photographer, become a better naturalist. And that really is true. The more you learn about nature, the more your photography is informed. And I think the better it is. I think it's important to have an easy to access area, so you can go there a lot. I also think it's important to try to pick an area that's under photographed. I really think that a lot of people, as they're getting into photography, have this idea that they're going to go to these iconic places and go to the same places that everybody else shoots the Tetons or what have you. And a lot of that's, you know, nice to do, but I really think it's good to go to places where, you know, tripods haven't been before, where you can be the kind of the first photographer looking at it and photographing it. And I got to tell you, a lot of places along the Chattahoochee, just because people don't think of it as, you know, a world-class place to go, they haven't been there with their cameras. They haven't explored it with their cameras. They haven't explored it photographically. I think it's important for it to be in need of advocacy. And then your camera can be a part of that advocacy, a place for which you can make a difference. And then I think it's important to make contact with the agencies and organizations that protect it, or form new ones to protect the area. So that's just kind of some ideas that I would have. Chattahoochee watershed is certainly very important, not only to Georgia, but to the southeastern United States. Flows into the Gulf of Mexico, is one of the most important watersheds, certainly in the southeastern United States, and flows into an extremely rich estuary. And so because of that, it's a diverse river, makes its way from the North Georgia mountains to the Gulf of Mexico with thousands of tributaries along the way. And you can see the diversity just in this slide right here. Everything from, you know, shrimp boat docked there at Apalachicola, to whitewater rafters going through the new rapids over the Wave Shaper. If you're familiar with the Wave Shaper there in Columbus, Georgia, where they now run whitewater right through the city. Some of you are probably familiar up there in North Georgia with that waterfall. That's Horse Trough Falls, which is at the headwaters of the Chattahoochee. And you can, if you look over to the right, you'll see Flat Shoals Creek, where you get a profusion of the trout, the shoal spider lilies. So there's this huge diversity, and there's lots of subjects there. A lot of these I'm going to kind of gloss over because they're not areas that I've concentrated on. For example, north of Helen, all the way to Lake Lanier, there's certainly tons of subjects. And a lot of those are places that, you know, may be close to your homes, places that you could say, you know, that stretch of river, that's an interesting area to me. I may go back and back and back to that and just see how it changes over the seasons and see what critters are there and so forth. Then south of Lake Lanier, you've got, you know, Buford Dam to Island Ford. This is an area that I have photographed some for the national park because they needed specific pictures. They needed pictures of the bridges there at Settles Bridge, and there's Jones Bridge, which is now completely gone, I believe, and the dam and some of the boat landings and so forth. But I haven't photograph this like I have done the other areas. And then of course, south of Atlanta, you know, you've got lots and lots leading up to Columbus, including, you know, McIntosh Reserve, and then Flat Shoals Creek and Columbus, so forth. And then south all the way to Apalachicola, you know, you've got tons of different things. And it's a really diverse river as it goes through its, you know, its trip to the journey to the sea. So the area that I've concentrated on in my photography and for this presentation is really from Island Ford, as part of the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area, from the Island Ford unit, which is where the park headquarters are, downriver to Pace's Mill. And so those will be the areas that I cover in my presentation, more than just a general gloss over like I did with those other things. Before I start that, just a few resources that I'd like to talk about. One is the website of the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area, which will help you plan your visits. Not only does it give you the maps of where the entrances are and so forth, but it also tells you, you know, what the fees are to enter the park and that sort of thing. You know, there's a pass required for the park, and I always get a free one because I donate the picture. So that's, but you can actually pay for it now online. So you just go to the parking lot that you're interested in, and you can actually you know, look, you know, have your phone scan the QR code and put in your license number, and off you go. But it is good to check out their website before you go there. Another thing that I think is a real takeaway for you if you don't know about this website and you photograph rivers at all is the United States Geological Survey National Water Dashboard. And this is just a screen snip of what the dashboard looks like kind of on the north side of Atlanta. And all of those different points are points where you can, where it's an access point. So you can get data about that point. And it's not just the Chattahoochee River, it's all sorts of rivers and tributaries in North Georgia. So this is really worth checking out. And this next slide shows the screen that I look at that is accessed from this dashboard every time I go to the river. Those are flow rates. And so when I go down to the river, I'm looking at the flow rate. So if I wake up in the morning thinking that I'm going to go down to, and this is, by the way, south of Morgan Falls. So if I go down there thinking that I'm going to shoot otters, and I look and the flow rates are up here at like over 7,000 cubic feet per second, I've not had good luck finding otters at that level. Usually when I'm going to get them and be able to photograph them down where I photograph them, it's going to be at a lower, you know, it's going to be down here below 2,000 cubic feet per second, at least where I know where to find them and where they fish. And mostly I've seen them catching crayfish more than anything else. But in any event, I mean, there's always reasons that you want to know water levels, right? I mean, on the Chattahoochee, there's certain places that I'm going to show you pictures of that you see these really cool shoals. Well, you're not going to see those up at 7,000 cubic feet per second. You're probably also going to see a lot of brown water at that kind of flow rates. Whereas at the lower flow rates, you're going to have, it's going to be a much more photogenic river. So that's something that I always am looking at before I go down to the river. And I hope it's helpful to you on whatever your favorite river is, because I think it's likely that one of those dots on that previous screen, and I'll go back to it, is going to be some river that, you know, that you want to photograph at some time. So it's a really helpful site to know about. So here we go. We're going to start with Island Ford, Vickery Creek, and down to Gold Branch, and then also along the Azalea Drive area. Now, where this is, and if you look down at the lower right, you can see what north is on this. So north isn't straight up. That's just the way they've oriented their map. North is up kind of to the northwest as this map is oriented. And if you see that major road there, that's 400. So that's 400 just as it's crossing over the Chattahoochee River, just kind of south of Holcomb Bridge Road. On the east side of that is where, and on the south side of the river is where the park headquarters is. You actually access it by getting off on the next exit south of Holcomb Bridge Road. And then, of course, the Vickery Creek is accessed from the Azalea Drive area and Riverside Drive area. And then we'll kind of go from there. So this is Island Ford. Island Ford is the headquarters of the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area. It's not a national park, it's a national recreation area, but it is administered by the National Park Service. So that's who has is the resource manager over all of the units that were designated in the 1978 designation by during the Carter administration when it became a national recreation area. And there's roughly 48 miles south of Buford Dam that are covered by that area. This is right about in the probably a little past the midway point down toward the downriver end of the park. Anyhow, it's just a beautiful area. I would encourage you to go there because not only can you access the headquarters and the information that's available there in terms of the rangers that are on duty when it's open and so forth, but also there's some really nice scenery that is available there. One thing that you do have to kind of look out for is kind of on the upriver end of this. There are a lot of homes that are there on what's Eves Road, which is on the other side of the river, the north side of the river. And, you know, you kind of have to watch your pictures to make sure you're not getting somebody's back porch in it sometime. But as you walk further downriver, you get less of that. Now, if you look at the rocks in this river and the water going over the rocks, I think that's one of the prettiest parts of this image. However, I will also tell you that at high water flows, you're not going to see that. It's going to go right over those rocks. That's why it's important to know what, you know, how much water is flowing at the time when you go to the river. There's also a really nice pond and creek at Island Ford Unit. As you're going in the main park road to the headquarters, there's a pond off to the right. That pond is a great location in the spring and summer for dragonflies, turtles, and other things that you find in ponds. But also below there, as it goes into the river, it's a really pretty creek that kind of tumbles down in there. It's very picturesque. And so it certainly is another, you know, photographic subject when you go to Island Ford. And then, of course, the trail there takes you right along the river. And so you really get a lot of opportunity to see the river, see the geese or ducks or whatever, you know, is active there in the river at the time. Really, really pretty in the fall with the fall foliage. So it's a good place to go. The next unit south is called Vickery Creek. Vickery Creek, or Big Creek, as it's also called, it's the same thing. Flows through Roswell and it ends up in the Chattahoochee River. It empties in the Chattahoochee River just right near Roswell Road. If you're familiar with that, where Roswell Road and Azalea Drive come together. And then there's this access point right here is actually from Roswell Mill, which is actually not a part of the National Recreation Area, but right across the river, and there's a bridge that goes right across the river. In fact, it's a covered bridge where a lot of people take, you know, graduate pictures and that, you know, high school senior pictures and that kind of thing. Once you cross over that bridge, you're in the national park or national recreation area, and those trails that are on the other side of the river from where I'm standing when I make this photograph are all in the National Recreation Area, and they all go throughout this whole unit. It's a really pretty unit. The thing itself is pretty in the fall, but it's also very, very pretty, I think, in the springtime as well. One of the things about this, if there's been a lot of rain, it's not a place that I would necessarily go to because a lot of times the water is very muddy, and you know it's muddy and brown going over the waterfall, and it's just not as attractive as it could be. There's also opportunities. This is a shot that I did of some friends of mine for the national park. So when you go to any of the National Recreation Area parking lots, this is one of the pictures that appears on their sign. They've got signage throughout the park. And my friend who I got talked into getting her family out there to let me take their picture of people enjoying the park. She said her little son, when he saw the pictures out there on the sign, said, "We're famous, we're famous." So it was fun for them. But there's some really nice, pretty bluffs there as well at Allenbrook, which is another entrance to the park, which you can find on the map. And this is right off of Roswell Road. But this is the same creek. This is that Vickery Creek or Big Creek just before it empties into the Chattahoochee River. So moving downriver a little bit, there's Riverside Park and Boardwalk, which is actually on Azalea Drive heading towards the Chattahoochee Nature Center. And it's actually, there's a lot of facilities that have been built there by the city of Roswell. Including a lot of parking lots and boat ramps and pavilions and bathrooms and things like that, including, you know, playground equipment for children and that kind of thing. And it's a really good area to photograph not only boaters, because you'll see a lot of boaters, a lot of rowers there getting in rowing shells and so forth, but also people interacting with nature and with the river. So it's a good place for people photos as well. And the boardwalk itself is a really nice access that runs essentially from the south part of that river park all the way past the Chattahoochee Nature Center, all the way down to Willio Park on Willio Road. And one of the things I like to do is just walk it with a long lens. And I think this was all shot in one day with my 200 to 500 millimeter lens on my Nikon D500. And so there's really a lot of opportunities. You know, it's a great place to get access to some good, because you're walking through the woods kind of, but over the water. And so it's really good for just taking your long lens and shooting what's there. Also, like I said, it's a really good place to photograph boaters. There's a lot of rowing shells that you'll see there. Because this is just above Bull Sluice Lake, and it's where a lot of people are photographing. Also, it's a really nice place to go in the morning time for God's Light Show, as I call it. And you've got a really good, you know, and you saw in that earlier picture also, you know, a lot of opportunities for the sun in various locations there. You know, and this is just a little further down the river, you know, on a really pretty morning. So that's one of the places I like to go. Now, downriver a little bit more, we have Gold Branch, which is the next unit, and it's got its own parking area. This is actually off of Lower Roswell Road at this point, and was a really good, it's a really nice area with trails that kind of go in a big loop around where you're going to get views onto what's called Bull Sluice Lake, which is just above Morgan Falls Dam. So that's why it's kind of a lake. It's backed up from Morgan Falls Dam. You know, it's some really nice opportunities there for some shots that look more like they're shot on a lake than on a river. Now, moving down a little bit, we get to the Johnson Ferry area. Johnson Ferry, north and south, are two different parking areas, but they're all a part of the Johnson Ferry unit. And then as you go further down, you get to Soap Creek, which is kind of a different entrance. It's off of Paper Mill Road. And then further down is Cochran Shoal. So let's talk about those. This is the Johnson Ferry North, which is actually on the north side of Johnson Ferry Road as it's crossing over the Chattahoochee River. And it actually has a boat ramp there. One of my favorite things to photograph there is it's just a great place for dragonflies, butterflies, skippers, moths, all sorts of things like that in the spring, summer, and early fall. One of the best, most reliable places for this particular dragonfly, which is a blue-faced meadowhawk, and I almost always see them there during their flight season. Now, this is Johnson Ferry South. So this parking area is actually off of Columns Drive, just south of Johnson Ferry Road, and it's about a mile on the left. And a lot of this area is kind of flooded out because of the beaver dams that are there, and there's extensive dam work there. And also this lodge. I haven't actually gotten the beaver yet there, but I'll get him. I always get my beaver. But I do know that he's active because the beavers are active there because I've seen fresh beaver gnaws there recently, and also beaver poop. So you got to really know to be a nature photographer. Okay, well, I'll move on. For example, lots of beaver activity. That gnaw that's there above that, where it says a lot of recent beaver activity, that is actually the week before I was there. I have a picture of that same branch and it wasn't there. So I know that the activity is recent. And the other thing, though, that pond does is it creates a lot of opportunities for other wildlife. A lot of standing deadwood in there. So it's a really, really great area if you want to photograph woodpeckers. All of these were shot at that area. So you've got a hairy woodpecker taken off there to the left, and then a pileated, and then a red-headed, and then that's actually a yellow-bellied sapsucker there to the right. A little further down, this is an entrance off of, it's another tributary, it's Soap Creek. And this is actually off of Paper Mill Road. It's a really, really beautiful creek. And so this is, if you were going to go a day in the fall to just photograph a beautiful area where you could walk around, get lots of diverse photos, lots of different kinds of photos, Soap Creek is a wonderful location for that. You start with the ruins that are down by the river. These are the old mill. That was down by the river. That was actually a part of Civil War history. I won't go much into that because I probably will be pushing up against the boundaries of my time anyway. By the way, Mike, how much time do I have right now left?
Probably about 30 minutes.
Okay, good.
Do 25 minutes, then we have time for questions.
Okay, good. So anyhow, so this is that ruin, but there's also a really pretty pond there that is, I got to tell you, in the fall, you walk around this thing and it is just gorgeous in the fall. It's not only an easy hike from the parking area, but it can be done by anybody that can. It's not handicap accessible necessarily, but it's close to that easy to approach. And in the winter, it's really can be really nice and very picturesque as well. And then of course, down on the creek can just be glorious, especially in the fall foliage time. So I'm a real fan of the Soap Creek area, and I think it's a really, really nice destination for people to go photograph if they want an in-town destination. By the way, one of the things that I failed to mention, and I hope I'm going to remember the name of the place, is at Roswell Mill. You remember I was telling you about Roswell Mill where the dam is? There's some really nice eateries up there, up above in the mill section. So if you were coming down here to spend a day photographing, there's some really nice areas in and around Roswell and that mill to eat. And at Soap Creek, you're also really close to some nice places on Johnson Ferry Road and so forth to eat. Now this is further down the river. This is the Cochran Shoals unit. And there's actually two entrances or parking lots that support the Cochran Shoals unit. One is on the north side, and it's actually at the end of Columns Drive, which is south of Johnson Ferry. So what you would do is turn on Columns Drive off of Johnson Ferry. You would go past the entrance for the upper or for the lower Johnson Ferry area that I showed you, the Beaver Dam or the Beaver Lodge. That's where that was. You would continue on Columns Drive until you got to the end of it, and you go right into the parking area for Cochran Shoals. You can also access Cochran Shoals from the south by going to the Interstate North parking area. And that Interstate North parking area is really one of the larger parking areas in the park, has a restroom facility and so forth, and including a fitness trail, and there's actually biking allowed in that area. So there's a lot that could draw you to Cochran Shoals. One of the things I like about Cochran Shoals is that there's a lot of people doing things in the river there. So things like fishing and so forth. So if you want to have pictures of people interacting with nature and with the park, that's a really good place to do it. And landing trout and doing all sorts of things like that. There's also a beaver pond similar to what's up at Johnson Ferry, where the dams have backed up a lot of water that is there to, that'd be River Right or the west side of the river. And it's actually, so as you're walking up from Interstate North and you're walking upriver, the river is going to be on your right and all of this beaver pond is going to be on your left. And it's a really good location for a lot of waterfowl. You see, I've got hooded mergansers there, northern pintail duck there, a swamp sparrow walking on the ice one time, and just a lot of stuff. A boardwalk provides access to that. And the most convenient access point to the area accessed by that boardwalk is Interstate North. And here's the boardwalk here in the wintertime, obviously, but that's a really good location, especially because of the beaver pond and all of the different stuff that you can find back there. Also, there tends to be a lot of rookeries in there. I think right now the active rookery areas are kind of on the north side of Cochrane Shoals. A lot of the early photographs that I did of great blue heron rookeries were on the south side near this beaver pond, but I think now they're kind of north of there. And I confess I haven't been shooting any of the rookery, nesting shots that I used to shoot all the time recently because I've been concentrating on other things. But then all sorts of, geese there and, things to photograph. Now we get to an area that's really kind of one of my favorite. I just think this is as pretty as any place anywhere. This is the Palisades area. So there's East Palisades and West Palisades. West Palisades, the access that I typically use there is the Acres Mill parking lot. The Acres Mill parking lot takes you down to the river where there's a boat ramp. There's a bathroom down there. There's, and then there's just lots to draw you down there. So, and then the access to the Palisades East there's two places. One is the Indian Trail parking area. So it's off of Indian Trail. And you can go down to the river by the, right down to the river above the Palisades, but just below Devil's Racecourse there. You can also access the trail to Poppy's Point, which is a great overlook looking from the east towards the west. So that's a good location as well. And then you can also access it at, why can't I say it? Whitewater Creek. Now here's the downside of Whitewater Creek. I've been going there more than any other place recently because of the otters. But the downside to Whitewater Creek is that it got out through a lot of different websites that this was a dog park, not a national recreation area, but a dog park. And I'm serious. This is not, I'm not speaking sarcastically here. And people think that they don't have to have their dog on a leash there, or maybe they just, I don't know. But it is the number one area I've ever seen of people walking their dogs without leashes. And sometimes, that can get to be a problem.
Hey, Tom,
yeah.
With the Palisades, what was the first entrance point you mentioned, the first road?
To East Palisades, it's called Indian Trail. Trail.
Not Indian Trail, the other side.
Oh, on the other side, that's called Acres Mill. And it's off of Acres Mill Road. And one of the things that, I mean, you can look all of this stuff up on a map, but one of the things that marks your turn off of Acres Mill Road up the hill to get to that parking area is there's a big water wheel there. It's almost as big as the one that's up at Berry College. There's a great big water wheel there, which is really just an advertisement for one of the apartment complexes, I think, that's up there. But it's a really good landmark to let you know that that's where you go. And then you go to the top of the hill, you look for the Brown National Park sign, you turn there, you go down to the end of the road and park. So it's pretty easy to access. It's probably one of my favorite access points to the park. Now here's one difference though, with both the Indian Trail one and that one, you're going to have a walk down in, which means you're going to have a walk out. So it's actually got a good bit of elevation gain to it, whereas the one at Whitewater Creek is pretty much level. You're on the river level when you park. So that's one of the differences between those two. So let's go on these. So, you know, gosh, this doesn't even have to be a good picture for you to know that it's beautiful. I mean, it's just a gorgeous place. It's one of the prettiest places on the planet in my opinion. So if I'm looking upriver, as you can tell here. To my left is where the bathroom is. So the bathroom is about, I don't know, 30 yards to probably 40 yards to my left. Then downriver from me, in other words, looking behind me, downriver from me, probably 100 yards is where the boat ramp is. I'm not sure. I think the only people that would use that boat ramp, because nobody else can get a car down there, would be national park folks. So it'd be national park personnel putting in a boat, I would imagine. And I've literally never seen boats other than just kayaks and rafts going down in that area. I've never seen a power boat. So this is actually the upriver portion. So this is right at above where the Palisades start, where the cliffs start. And this is called Devil's Race Course. And you can find this in a lot of books about the Chattahoochee and so forth. And so this can be a really, really pretty area. Again, just like I mentioned earlier with the other shoals, if the water's really, really high, a lot of what you're seeing right here isn't going to be there. It's just going to be washed out. It's going to be water going over it, which is why I think it's good to take a look at what the water levels are going to be when you're there at the river and get as good of a real-time picture as you can. This is actually looking over towards the Palisades from a very, very narrow part. This is one of the most narrow portions of the river there. It gets really, really deep. This is on May the 4th. And the reason I tell you that is may the 4th be with you. No, I'm sorry. This is on May the 4th, and those are mountain laurel over there. And so it really can get covered with mountain laurel in early May. And so that's good to know. This is actually, so go back to this picture. So just to the right of this picture is where these cliffs are. Okay, so they're just starting to the right of the picture. You can see them there. That's them. And that's what that's going into. Obviously a different season. And so there's some really beautiful scenery there, especially with those steep cliffs. I will warn you, there are people that think the trails continue past those cliffs. I would never do that. I've been walking there for years. The trails are now there's places. Have any of you been to Sweetwater Creek State Park? There's places at Sweetwater Creek State Park where they've used cables and stuff to go past some sketchy areas like that where you kind of can hang on to the cable. There's nothing like that here. So I really caution people, and I know people do it regularly, but not to try to walk over these cliffs because it's really dangerous. So that's my fair warning. And then you've got, looking downriver, and that leaning tree has been there just forever, it seems like. And that is where we're looking here is I'm actually standing at that boat ramp I was telling you about, and I'm looking downriver. So to the right, you can kind of see there's some cliffs starting there. Those are Palisades West. That's on the same side of the river that I'm on. And I want you to remember those cliffs, because those cliffs get a real profusion in the early spring, or right about now, actually, of trout lilies. And you'll see some pictures that I took from those cliffs of the trout lilies in a minute. So anyhow, and then the shoals that you can see starting there, those are Thornton Shoals. So Thornton Shoals are just south of the real narrow area that's there. And this is looking down over Thornton Shoals on a, a foggy morning. And there's all sorts of potential for shots like this on the Chattahoochee, where you use the compression of a telephoto lens to make it look like there's layer after layer after layer, just like you use a compression on a telephoto lens to shoot layer after layer of ridges in the mountains, or whatever. So it really can make a nice shot. So this is that picture I was telling you about earlier. This is actually shot from those cliffs. So you can see there's some good height above the river here. Any of you who have seen my thing on my presentation on wide angle close-ups or wide angle macros, you probably know that this is using a 15 millimeter fisheye lens as a close-up lens so that I can get a wide angle close-up here. And I'm within inches of these trout lilies that are up there. But it also gives you an opportunity to see where you are, right? You're seeing the river. And so I really like using that technique. Also in this area, especially in the springtime, it's a really good area just for getting nice shots, interior forest shots. You can see everything in here from dogwood to redbud and to yellow, why can't I say it, buckeye. So there's all sorts of really nice, and in the spring, it just absolutely comes alive. So that's a really nice place, but it's also pretty in the fall as well. So it's a really good shot place for shooting forest shots. And as you can see, you can get other things there too. Everybody knows what those are, right? Those are fireflies. Now, we're on the other side of the river. So now we've gone in, where I've hiked in here is I've hiked in from the Indian trailhead that I told you about. And you can only access this area from the Indian Trail trailhead without having to hike way up and then come down again, right? Now you're gonna have to go down, but if you come in from Whitewater Creek on this side of the river, what's gonna happen, let's go back to that. Okay, what's gonna happen is you're gonna have to walk over these, and you have to go way up over them, up to the top of the ridge to do it safely and to do it on the trails. And then you're gonna have to come down the left side of these to get to here, okay? But if you park in the Indian Trail and just go down and then to the right, and what you're doing is you're following down the Cabin Creek Trail. And I don't know if they're marked that way on the map, but it's kind of to the right. It veers to the right and goes down into that little valley and then comes out at the river. And so now you're looking from the east side of the river, actually southeast, to the west side. And what's really cool about that is in the morning, the sun comes up at your back and it lights the other side of the river. And that's really nice, especially in the fall. And if you can time it when the full moon is up, when the sun is rising, then you can get that in your shot as well. So it can really give you some nice shots that you can't get from the other side. The other thing that I like there is that there's a lot of soapwort gentians there. And I really like to photograph those with a wide angle macro lens and kind of show, when they grow, which is in the fall, and show them right there beside the river. So that's a nice area for that. So this is Whitewater Creek. So here we are at Whitewater Creek. This is what you see. I mean, this is just like right off the parking lot, walk straight to the river, and you're seeing that. So that's really a nice area. And if you notice, I'm benefiting from the fact that the sun is rising to my back. And so, it's going to light up the other side. And of course, it's really nice to time your shot to where the trees on the other side are lit up, but the sun hadn't hit the river yet. So you get that really nice reflection in the water. And of course, everybody knows, don't use your polarizer at that point because you want those reflections. You don't want to eliminate them with a polarizer. And just some really, really pretty kind of spots in here. Lots of nice opportunities in this area for landscapes. And this is a really unique spot that's on that area. When the water, this is actually when the water is at a high level. And what it does is when it runs over this tree, it forms a little waterfall. This is kind of in a slough on the side, on a side channel of the river. This isn't in the main river channel. But the thing that draws me there is the river otters, the North American river otters. And I've had good luck, I think on 7 different occasions, I've actually been able to, to find at least one. The most I've seen together is 4. And so I've had pretty good luck there with the North American river otters. Final one is going to be Pace's Mill. And I want to tell you about Pace's Mill really importantly, because it's a really good place for trout lilies and bloodroot. So if you look down to the lower, let's see if I can get my cursor. Everybody see where my cursor is?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's a good cursory approach. Sorry. So right in this area, right here, this is the trail that runs from the Pace's Mill parking area up under I-75. And right here is where it goes over a bridge that goes over Rottenwood Creek. Here it continues along the river, but here it turns left and it goes up and it meets a Cobb County trail called the Bob Callan Trail. And right in here, in this area, you'll start to see trout lilies. And I got to tell you, they grow in the bazillions there. And they're probably starting up right now. I was going to go try this Sunday and see if they're up yet, but I bet they are. Because most of my pictures of the trout lilies there is from around February 20th or so. So that's a really good area to photograph the trout lilies. The other thing that sometimes is a little later, but could be right now, is right in here. So this is the parking area here, right? And there's a bathroom right in here. Well, the trail goes out here. There's a sign here with my picture on it. So you got to look at that. But as you go past that, right in here and to the left, there's like a little creek or a little ditch in there. Well, look over in the woods there and you'll see not trout lilies, you'll see bloodroot at about this time. And so it's a really, really good location for bloodroot. Now, right up in here, where's my cursor? Right up in here, later in the season, so towards March and April and May and so forth, you'll start to see other things come up here, including lots of mayapple, red trillium, stuff like that. So there's some really good flowers in this area, and I recommend it highly for that. There's also there's a boat ramp here. So there's a lot of stuff going on where you can photograph, people in nature there. It's a really good place for that. It's a really good place where you can just kind of walk down that boat ramp and into the water and start doing kind of, tight shots on the water. So I really like that area. But here's the thing that Pace's Mill for me really excels at. And that is late winter and early spring flowers. So you can see everything from wood sorrel up at the top, bloodroot, that picture at the bottom, and to the right, the trout lilies. And I believe those trout lilies were taken not at the area that I just told you about that's up there, on the left and that trail that connects to the Bob Callan Trail. I'm pretty sure those trout lilies are actually from that bluff that I showed you that overlooks there at Palisades, where there's a bunch of them there. I think that's where those were actually taken. So now I've talked about I've talked about the river by location. Now I want to talk about it by subject. So it's a really good place for finding people interacting with nature, either canoeists or kayakers coming down the river. This was one of their brochure covers that they used. And actually the guy saw it on the brochure cover, contacted the park, and then contacted me. And I thought he was going to get mad at me for using his picture without permission. He said, "Hey man, can I have a copy of that picture and give it to my buddy?" And I'm like, "Sure." I'm glad to. Here's another one that went on an annual pass, just showing people connecting with nature. I think the way I did this I think I may have cut this off in my PowerPoint, but the picture isn't cut off. But anyhow, that's a great blue heron overlooking that. Here's hikers there, hiker in the snow. You know, lots of opportunities for photographing people boating or fishing and that kind of thing. So really great opportunities for photographing people there on the Chattahoochee River. You know, flora in the park, there's lots of opportunities for flowers if you like photographing flowers. Especially, I bet y'all recognize the native azalea there. And there's not only native azalea, but there's also flame azalea, and there's fire pinks, and there's all sorts of other great stuff there, and mushrooms and lichens and cool things, reasons to bring your macro lens, ferns, just lots to photograph, as well as just photographing, you know, just kind of abstracts there of the water. And you might say, well, what would you ever use that for? Well, actually, that first picture where I showed y'all all the people lined up with me in the picture, and it was the installation that was at the National Park office. Well, this is the background of all that. They used this picture for the background. So everything else is set on this picture, which I thought was kind of a cool way to use it. The other thing too, that you can do anywhere that you photograph, if you claim some other place as your home turf, photograph the alien invasive species there as well, because that's part of identifying a problem that needs to be dealt with. You know, dragonflies, butterflies, if you're a dragonfly photographer, either of those two ponds that I talked about are great places for dragonflies, insects, etc. Butterflies, skippers, and moths, the place I go to first is that Johnson Ferry North area. Birds are just all over the park. It's in a very important birding area. You know, everything from cedar waxwings to water birds. That spotted sandpiper was photographed at Whitewater Creek just not too long ago. And of course, you know, the other things you recognize there as well, the kingfisher with a fresh caught crawdad, and hooded merganser, and of course a mallard. Songbirds up and down the river, passerines, of course, one that you see all over the place, and one that I should have included, by the way, that I see a lot of are winter wrens there. Really good place for that. It's a good place. These were both shot at the Johnson Ferry South, at the place I was telling you about where the Beaver Lodge is. Just these guys were launching themselves out of the tree that's right there next to the Beaver Lodge, and they were just hawking insects. And these were both taken very recently. Great locations for woodpeckers throughout the park. There's a downy there. I think the other ones I've shown all of those pictures. Super location for herons. There's a great blue heron, green heron in the middle, and a yellow-crowned night heron to the right. Great blue herons throughout the park. Lots of opportunities. Virtually never go to the Chattahoochee River without seeing great blue herons, including some stoic ones in the wintertime sitting on their snow-covered nest. You know, lots of opportunities for photographing nesting behavior and rookeries and so forth. Lots of opportunities for belted kingfishers. And of course, if you know their rattle, you'll hear that rattle all the time when you're on the river. Lots of hawks and owls, and recently more and more sightings of bald eagles, including this one here. And I think this is near the nest. You see the nest? So you see him bringing a stick into the nest in the pine tree. I think you may see the nest. And now this bird, actually, I thought I had another. Okay. Oh, the one to the right here, by the way, is 5 miles downriver from that nest. And I don't think that's the same bird. This guy right here is the one thing that was not photographed on the Chattahoochee River, not even in the state of Georgia. But I have not gotten a good enough photograph yet to show you of an osprey, but there are ospreys on the river. And so my goal is this year to get an osprey, and hopefully an osprey catching a fish. One of the places that I've heard that's really good for that is not a place that I've talked about, but it's Morgan Falls, where you go down for the parking area that's just south of the dam. That's supposedly a really good area for ospreys. And so I'm hoping that I'll get them this year. North American river otters, I've had a lot of sightings. Of course, anytime you go there, it's not a guarantee, but very often I've been successful. I think that's a handsome river otter right there, don't y'all? Yeah, that's one handsome dude right there. He kind of posed for me for a while. And that was at Whitewater Creek. And all of these were photographed at Whitewater Creek. So I've had a lot of nice opportunities for North American river otters. How to get involved, either on the Chattahoochee River or anywhere else, photograph cleanups. There's going to be one that I'm going to tell you about in a minute here, and you're welcome to email me if you're interested. And that is the Sweep the Hooch, where 1,200 volunteers will probably pull out about 30 tons of garbage out of the river on March 26th. But I like to get involved and make photographs of people trying to make a difference, trying to take conservation into their own hands. Working with organizations that protect the rivers. I've done a lot of photography for the national park and used them on MARTA buses. Remember I said one of my goals was to inspire people to come to the river? Well, this is a campaign that was designed to do just that, the Healthy Parks, Healthy Living Visit Chattahoochee River campaign. We also did a lot of signage throughout Cobb County as a part of that campaign using photographs that I had made of the river. The display, they needed the photographs for a display at their headquarters. These are ways you can get involved in Chattahoochee River or whatever you claim as your home turf. Primarily working with 3 organizations for me: Chattahoochee Riverkeeper, Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area, and Chattahoochee National Parks Conservancy, which is essentially a friends group of the nature area. So all the wayfaring signs throughout the park, I helped them with that. They needed images for that. They needed images for their brochures, passes, and other collateral material. I've done their annual park pass for years and years. This is not a Tom Wilson, look at all these things I've gotten published. These are shown to you as examples of ways that you can help, whatever the local agencies are that you're working with for your patch of ground. Because I'm convinced that photographers are an unused resource. I mean, we can literally be an army for conservation, because there's really nothing that tells the story of conservation and the need for conservation as well as photographers can tell it. So one of the things that I've photographed is the Back to the Chat River race. And that was a great opportunity to show people interacting with the park. And Sweep the Hooch, which is coming up on March the 26th. Anybody that's interested in that, get ready to take my email address, TRWBSA. I worked for the Boy Scouts so it's BSA. So TRWBSA at bellsouth.net. And so if you'd like, I talked to Tammy today, who's the organizer of that event, and we do a thing with the GNPA, Georgia Nature Photographers Association, where we actually try to do a good turn and provide photographers for them that day. And I said, I'll be speaking to a group tonight that is not part of GNPA, but can I invite them to, contact me if they're interested? And she said, sure, we want a lot of help. And they're going to be doing sites all the way from Helen, all the way down to, I think they go as far as Chattahoochee Bend State Park. So they'll need photographers all over the state. So if you have an interest in that, let me know. And I think there will be, I know there will be, because there are for our folks, there'll be a t-shirt in it for you. So you can get a t-shirt out of it. And it's a great way to, one of the things that I think nature photographers really need to learn how to do, if you are a nature photographer, is photograph people. Because that's always a part of telling the story, is photographing people, not just, birds and bugs and mammals and landscapes, but also people interacting with those things. So, and that's a great way to do it. Thus endeth my story. I'm going to stop the share. Did I finish on time?
Right at 8:30, according to my.
Oh, good. Good. I had kind of timed it out. I've been working on this all week, so hopefully it went okay.
It was great. Do we have any questions? Is that any of the parks or recreation areas?
I take questions as a compliment, so fire away.
What macro lens are you using?
So I use a bunch. So I use a Sigma 15 millimeter fisheye as almost as a macro lens. I also use a Venus Optics LAOWA 15 millimeter 1-to-1 macro lens, which is a fantastic lens, but it's manual focus.
Yeah.
It's got no contacts. It doesn't talk to your camera at all. And so it's all, it's all manual. But then I also use a Sigma 150 millimeter f2.8 traditional macro lens that's a great sharp as a razor macro lens. And I also use kind of a unique lens that's an oldie but a goodie from Nikon. That's an 70 to 180 micro Nikkor. So it's a zoom macro lens, and it really is a pro grade macro lens. A lot of lenses, zoom lenses used to say, well, this is macro. No, they weren't really pro grade, but this is a pro grade lens. It's a micro Nikkor. But what's really nice about it is, that a lot of times when you're trying to set up a shot, framing is an issue because you got to move your tripod or you got to have a focus rail or something like that to get it framed just how you want it. And moving a tripod around in a bunch of flowers or whatever isn't always that easy. Well, what's really nice about that zoom micro Nikkor is that you zoom to do your framing. So it's really kind of nice in that way. Yeah. So I like it a lot. But it's a screw drive lens. It doesn't have a focus motor in it. So some of the newer bodies won't use it because they don't have focus motors in the body. So like the Z, so even if you had the mount to a Z body on a Nikon, it would not focus with it because it doesn't have the motor in the body. I think that's not true of the Z9, but I think it's true of the other Zs. I hope that answered your question.
It does. Thank you. I just noticed how nice it was, and I was wondering Yeah,
and there's a lot of, there's a lot of really, really good macro lenses out there, but I do have to tell you, I love shooting wide angle macro and close up. It's not really macro until it gets to 1-to-1, but you know what I mean, close up shots, because I like to include the context. Yeah. It's like that shot of the Soapwort gentian that was on the side of Palisades East. And you were able to see that it was fall foliage on the trees, and you were able to see that you were right next to the river. So it tells you all sorts of stuff about that flower that a normal macro wouldn't have told you. It tells you when it blooms, where it blooms. All of that is in that one shot. And that's one of the reasons I like it. That I like to shoot that one.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is it, how do you actually find some of these places? I know you were showing the map and all of that, but not exactly real familiar with going to too many places on the Chattahoochee. So is there a site that you can go to find these?
Yeah, that first site that was on the that I talked about on the Chattahoochee National Recreation Area site, which is on a national park site. It actually has, so you remember when I was going through different sections of it and I would kind of show you blow-ups of that map? That map is from their site. Okay. So it shows you the access locations and so forth. And then of course, the other thing I do is I use my GPS to get there now. I didn't always have that, but now I do the GPS. And typically I can say the name of the parking area, like I can say Whitewater Creek parking area and tell Siri that, and she knows just what I'm talking about and goes there.
Okay, thank you.
So the GPS can really be a good tool for doing that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
What are you most interested in photographing?
All of it.
Okay, because I was going to say if I know, I can kind of steer you to target rich environments. By the way, make sure that y'all keep my email address, because I'm always glad, if somebody was going to go there, I'm glad to answer an email. They say, hey, I was going to go there this weekend. What do you think about such and such?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, hey, Bill.
Hey, how we doing?
Oh man, if I was doing better, they'd arrest me.
So here's my question, Tom. I want to get a picture in my bucket list of some fly fishermen on the river. Where would I go?
Where you would go is, okay, fly fishermen, I've had the best luck with Cochrane shoals, and also Cochrane shoals is really good, but the other one that's really good is the Acres Mill parking area and going down to Palisades West. I've gotten a lot of folks, you see a lot of folks there that have like the walking sticks and the grippy shoes and everything that, you know, going out into the river there. You see a lot of people there.
Excuse me. I don't know exactly how or where to access it, but in the Beaufort area, there's a lot of fly fishermen on the Chattahoochee River.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and I'm speaking of the area that I know of, but you're absolutely right. There's a lot, you know, all up and down the river. There tend to be fly fishermen, and then also, I mean, I don't know if y'all know this, but there's big trout in the Chattahoochee, really big trout. There's some trophy trout coming out of there, brown trout. Yeah. But those are the areas that I've had the most luck with, but I'm glad you said that, Michelle, because there's places really all up and down the river you can see fly fishing. Yeah. And probably up north of Lake Lanier too.
For the river otters, is there a time of day and time of year that they're easier to photograph or find?
I can't answer time of year yet because I've just really started getting them in the fall of this year. So I haven't been through the summer and everything with them. So, but I can answer the time of day seems to be early in the morning. That's when I've had the best luck, is early in the morning. But not necessarily all that early. I mean, I've seen them, you know, some of my photographs are as late as like 11 o'clock or so. But I usually get there, you know, just before the sun is coming up is where I go. And I also, you know, I'm certain that they're all up and down the river. So what I'm reporting to you is just where I've found them so far. But, you know, these guys can travel 20 miles in a day. So I'm sure they're all up and down the river. And I'm delighted to see them because it means, you know, they're predators, and it means the water quality is good.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's a really good sign that the water quality is good. And I will tell you, I've been photographing the Chattahoochee for 20 years, and all the efforts that have been made by Riverkeeper and everybody else, that river is a different river than it was 20 years ago. It's a lot cleaner, in my opinion. It's a lot more pristine. Now there's always junk floating down the river, and there's always trash traps and stuff like that, but it does not get as brown as it used to, and it doesn't, the brown doesn't last as long as it used to, you know, from the, and I think a lot of the legislation on, you know, sedimentation and erosion control has made a big difference on that. It's not to say that there's not much more to do, but I think the efforts have really paid off.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm glad to see otters, and I hope we see more of them.
Yeah, I would like to get a picture of an otter.
Oh yeah. That'll be utterly fantastic.
Yes.
We got time for one more question if anybody has one.
Tom, can you give your email one more time?
I certainly can. So it's TRW, which is my initials, Thomas Richard Wilson, TRWBSA, as in Boy Scouts America, at bellsouth.net. TRWBSA at bellsouth.net.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you're welcome to email me.
All right. Well, Tom, thank you so much. Another great presentation. We always love having you here. And
oh, I love coming. Yeah.
And you're invited again next year, and
cool.
hopefully
Thank
in
you.
person again. And so Michelle will be in touch. And for those who don't know, they usually don't get mentioned, but Michelle and Barry are responsible for getting our speakers. I always talk about Dick and
yeah, thanks for inviting me, Michelle.
But I want to make sure Michelle and Barry get some appreciation too. They've done a great job the last couple of years. And so we appreciate it, Tom, and thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mike.
And we will have the video will be on our YouTube channel either tonight or probably more likely tomorrow, because these usually take a while to upload. So, and then you're welcome to stay. We're going to do our photo challenge. You're welcome to stay and vote if you'd like. We'll go ahead and let Lisa share her screen.
Cool.
Lisa is running the photo challenges now.
And I probably am going to bug out, but thank you very much for inviting me, and y'all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I really appreciate asking me. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Can you see my
Lisa,
screen?
No, we cannot see it.
You cannot see it. Oh, okay.
Okay, I think it's about to come up. It says Lisa has started screen sharing. There we go.
Okay. I'm going to leave it right here for a second in case anybody wants to snap a picture of this. This is a list of our monthly photo challenge themes for this year. You can also always find it on our website. And when Mike posts the next meeting notice for next month, that will also include the theme for next month as well. This month is framed, next month is dilapidated. And I'm gonna hop to the next slide here. I think.
Take your cursor to the bottom and there you go.
Yeah.
Maybe able to just hit the enter button. It may take you to the next page. Or the arrow button.
The right arrow button.
Yeah, I'm trying the right arrow button. That's just not working for me.
It's there. Do you have anything else open?
Oh, I have a lot open.
Try right click on the screen.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't hide them. There we go. Okay, so as we go through the photos, we have 7 photos tonight. Keep in mind the theme framed and how each photographer has taken that into consideration, the way they've framed the subject and composed their photograph. The rules for our monthly challenge are 1 image per person, and the image must be 2 years or newer in age, no composites. These monthly challenge photos are single image only, and you must be a paid member to submit an image, and you must be at the meeting. You're allowed to miss 1 meeting a year, and we give away points for the top 5 places each month, and we accumulate those points, and the winner at the end of the year is our photographer of the year. That person wins $100. They have their membership paid for the following year, and they receive a special trophy. So I've made a couple of changes. The last couple of months, we've had a little bit of delay in seeing my screen change when we move through photos. So I'm gonna move somewhat slow since we only have 7 photos tonight, but please let me know if you have any trouble seeing the photo. if it's not keeping up. And I've also put the number of each photo on both the right and left hand side, because I know sometimes that that bar of people's images on the right hand side will cover up the number of the photo. So we'll get started here. This is photo number 1, and we'll go through these 3 times. Oh, and I didn't mention, you want to vote for your top 3 favorite photos. So when we finish, I'll give you the email address that you can send your votes for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place. Photo 2. Three. Does everybody see number 3?
Yes.
Good. 4. 5. 6. 7. And I'll move back through them. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. One more time. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 'And then I'm going to hop through a bunch of blank slides, get to the end here because we didn't have, oops, anyway, didn't have as many as I thought we'd have. So, and I just unshared my screen. Let me see if I can get it back again. So I can give you that email address. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you will send your votes for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place to vote at ngaphoto.club, then we can tally your votes. And if you can do that by 9:30, that would be great.
And make sure you do .club, not .com.
Give it back to you, Mike.
All right. All right, that's it for tonight. Our next meeting is going to be March 18th at 7 p.m. at the Bowen. Our presentation is going to be Travis Rhodes. We don't know what he's going to be talking about yet, but he always does a great presentation. And like I said, we're going to figure out how to do a hybrid presentation. So if you can't make it to the meeting, you can still watch online. And our photo challenge theme is dilapidated. And that's it. So thanks for coming. Yeah. Great to see everybody tonight. Last month we had a dog who joined in. This month we had a cat. And we're open to everybody and all species. So, good night, everybody. Thanks for coming. And we will see you in person next month. Lisa will post the winners tomorrow on Facebook. And I should have the recording on the YouTube page, and I'll post that either tonight or tomorrow. Night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Good night. Leave meetings.